Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Sunday edition of the Paranormal Weekend Morning Brew Show. I'm Nighthawk, and we'll be bringing Gerald, Grandmaster G, and Dennis on here momentarily. We got a few announcements to get out of the way, and the whole copyright disclaimer stuff. So, Nighthawk High Strange's podcast channel, aka William Nighthawk, and all podcasts on channel do declare fair use of any and all content to be used for the sole purpose of informing you, the viewing family, of information for news reporting, teaching, research, parody, general knowledge, only per Title 17 U.S.C. subsection 107 of the Fair Use Act of 1976. Man, 76, wow. Thank goodness they haven't messed with that law. So, anyways, yeah. Furthermore, Nighthawk High Strange's podcast channel uses UCut app and Splice app for all of its advertising music and advertising needs, which means nobody can claim rights to the music and say that we're using it unjustly. So, all right. Now we're going to get into a couple of announcements. Let me see here. As always, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Like us, subscribe. Got to get that algorithm up because they're still trying to block us, unfortunately. So if you can help us out, by if you've already subscribed, make sure you haven't been bumped off of there. Okay. Now into this. Okay. A Kickstarter account was created for Sasquatch Legend Meets Science 2. Good friend of mine, Doug Highcheck, and his son, Alex, are doing another Sasquatch Legend Meets Science, number 2, the sequel. Alrighty, if you can help them out or want to give them some support, let them know how you're anticipating the second one to come out, and you can go to their Kickstarter backer link at www.kickstarter.com/projects/highcheck/Legend Meets Science 2 film sequel, a Bigfoot documentary. Okay. So if you can, let's help him out. Encourage him to not give up on that. And let me see what else we have here. Okay, I'm pretty sure that might be all I have currently. I'm still trying to get the gremlins out of this computer. So, anyways, the channels that we're on, we do have Rumble, we do have Twitch, and Truth Social, but for some reason Truth Social and Rumble won't let me record any longer than about 5 minutes. So as far as going live on those, it's probably going to be a nay. So we're just trying to figure out how to work that out, just so everybody knows. But we are still currently we're on Parapost, which is that little ghosty figure. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter and YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. Okay. So you can catch us on those. Alrighty. Secondly, let's go down here and get rid. Come on, where'd it go? Come on. Let me take that off of there. All right, I'm going to bring the other guys on here, and we're going to start the show. Get the show on the road.
Good morning.
Oh,
Good,
all right.
good.
We're in camo today, huh? We're gonna hide out in the woods.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a rough night. It was a rough night. So,
Yeah.
uh, anyways, I spent most of the night trying to upload video of the Fresno night crawlers, and I couldn't get it to upload. So, anyways, I got a couple stills of it, so we'll go with that this morning and go from there. But I wanted to start off on that because that's pretty much where we ended yesterday, for the most part, with everything else covered, and we can get into all the other stuff here, like we always do, going off the rails, thereafter. So, anyways, night crawlers, opinions. Oh, wait a minute. I want to say hello to everybody first. Okay, let me see here. Let me see here.
Well, the night crawlers we're talking about is not what you fish with. And, that's another thing.
Oh,
They are among some of the weirdest paranormal stuff that I've seen in a long time. They're the way particularly the way their movements, the way they look and everything. First of all, just my own personal opinion, when I first saw the Fresno Nightwalkers, the night crawlers, or whatever you want to call them, I thought, hey, this is some kind of a weird costume. If you'll look at the way that they're put together, it looks like just that some kind of a costume that would make your legs seem longer, kind of a thing. But the more I looked at it, the more I realized this would be an impossible way to make a human being to be in a costume, if you look at it that way. So if it's not that, and if it's not CGI, what the heck is this? Is this some type of an interdimensional being or what?
I don't know about that. I think anything, the possibility of anything being fake nowadays is pretty good. But the uh, the fact of the matter is, neither one of the pictures I have, one's from the original sighting in Fresno. The ones that I have pictures of are from them walking in the national parks there, in California. I think it's Yosemite there that this was taken in. And I keep on wanting to refer to the MC Hammer song because he's got hammer pants on. So keep on wanting to see them, but I mean, honestly, it wouldn't take much for a very thin person to pull this hoax off in basically a silken sheet, a white sheet. Basically, just make it like a bodysuit, have a zipper in the back, and make baggy, and you got yourself a night crawler. Put your arms inside it, and you're all set. I mean, to me, it has a possibility of being fake. Now, what you can't see in the stills is the gait of the walk, and that is extremely unusual. I don't know if it's because of if it is somebody in a costume pulling it off, not being able to see because they weren't allowed to do eye holes into the costume because it would give it a dead giveaway. I don't know. Now, these things, there have been sightings in a couple national parks out in the West Coast that these things have been sighted sitting on rocks, on boulders, pretty much out in the middle of nowhere, sunning themselves and just minding their own business. And when people look at them and they see them, and these things don't see them, they turn to tell whoever they're with, or turn to grab something, like a camera out of their backpack or whatever, and they turn back to take a picture, and the things are gone. So, I think there's more to it. I mean, there is something almost fae-like to them, almost fairy-like, with the way they move, and would fae really need to have, like, the normal appenditures that a human would have, because not all fae are going to be alike. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I kind of thought it was fake from the very beginning. This looks weird, and it just doesn't look like any cryptid or creature we've looked at before. But then the more I look at it, I'm kind of with you. It's the gait and stuff is just so weird when you watch the video that it's almost unhuman-like.
Well, and it kind of reminds me though when I look at the video, it kind of reminds me of a mechanical too. The way it's moving, it's almost robotic, or almost. It's like, I tell you what it reminds me of. If you've ever walked in water, like in a lake or a swimming pool, I mean, actually walk through water. That's kind of what you look like these things do. They're sort of like they're moving, against something. You know what I'm saying? It's almost as if their movements are impeded by something in some way. It's strange, very strange.
All right. If we have anybody, they moderate that, let's take that long comment off of there. We don't allow solicitation of other things on the channel unless it's approved through us. And I don't know who that is from Adam, so I'm not going to endorse them. So
yeah, you need to run it through us before you advertise or something like that. Definitely.
anyways, all right, getting back into it. What do you think about the possible connection to them being somehow related to fae?
Yeah, I don't know. They're definitely kind of a creepy, I don't. It almost like it reminds me of the crawlers we were talking about yesterday more than a fae, though.
Well, having extensively studied stories and folklore of the fae, nothing like this has ever really been mentioned in any of the annals I know of, folklore of anything, for that matter. Like I say, if I were going to pick out some kind of weird interdimensional creature, that might walk through here, that would be it. That would be a very good candidate right there.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go to that person's site, and you guys go ahead and talk about the fae and stuff, and I'll come back. I gotta deal with this. I'm gonna have to block them at their website.
Yeah, anyway, that's a very strange looking creature, Gerald. What do you think? It could be alien? What do you think?
It reminds me of just, or I guess maybe because I keep thinking it's like a sheet or a pantsuit on somebody. It kind of reminds me of what you think a ghost would look like if somebody put a sheet over top of their head. But But it's always the gait that comes back to me, how they're walking down that slope in the grass, or it's just unusual.
Well, it looks like that until you see the legs separate, and it goes way too far up into the body for for it to be human. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If you look at how far the legs go up, there's no body. There's no place for a body in between that. You know, if you were wearing a costume, that will give you away that movement. If you were just standing there in a costume, you might could get away with that. You know what I'm saying? But once you start walking, you see that there's a lot of space in between those so-called legs or appendages or whatever. I mean, I don't even know if you can call them legs. They don't even look like, they look more like stilts of some sort. But in the annals of the paranormal, there's hardly ever, as far as I know, anything that comes close to these fresh-nosed nightwalkers in their appearance. There is one thing that I'm going to be talking about in my new series that I'm getting together, the Midnight Road. There was one incident that was called the White Thing, and I won't get into it right now, but it was kind of similar to this, and it never moved though, like these things are doing. And most of the time you ever see these, they're walking, they're moving, or there's some kind of video on it. And that's another suspect to it, Gerald. If you were going to fake something, you would definitely fake video over just a photograph. You see, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking the same thing you mentioned earlier about stilts, but I don't know if they could walk down that slope on a grass and stilts. I mean, you have to be pretty.
Well, a new kind of stilt. They got some new kind of stilts now, and I've seen guys on these things. And honest to God, you could walk upstairs with these things. I mean, they've got a new kind now. So, but like I said, the way their movement is, it kind of reminds me of somebody on stilts, but I don't think that's what it is. But it's the way that they're moving. It seems so odd and strange. It's almost like I said, like somebody walking through water. If you'll watch the video, they're like, and here's something else reminds me of this, by the way. I'm going to mention this when I think about it. You remember the Flatwoods Monster?
Yeah.
Now, I know it doesn't look like this, or it wasn't described as this, but the movements of it were pretty close to this, the way it moved. So it makes you wonder if would this be some kind of weird alien probe of some sort? Kind of robotic type thing.
Yeah, the weird thing about this video though, and the way that they move, is like there's no arms, so their gait's weird because like a normal human or whatever would have the arms going in motion with them, and you don't see anything like if it's under a sheet, you don't see any movement of their arms or anything, and
they got like, it kind of reminds me of something that's double jointed the way it moves. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's the odd thing about it. But if you'll look at the very top up there, you've got some kind of a round aperture type thing up at the very top. And that's what kind of reminds me, wouldn't it, of some kind of a probe-like thing, It makes you wonder if this is some kind of a walking probe, like the Flatwoods Monster was described as. Actually, I don't know why they called it a monster, because it was far from anything looking biological. To me, it looked very robotic. And it's been accused of perhaps being the alien probe type thing, This could be something along the same lines. That's the only connection I see with that. But it's very, very odd. And why are they white? You got to remember the color too. They're white. They're solid white. And if you look at the photos, they're almost reflective.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like I said earlier, a ghost or a sprite, or something that's like just piercing through the veil, because it doesn't really look. It doesn't. it doesn't really look like a full figured entity or something. It almost has that ghostly feeling to it when you see it.
Mm-hmm. Spiritual type thing, yeah.
Yep.
That's another possibility. Like I said, what I said earlier, interdimensional being of some sort, which could be something, that'd be my second guess for it if it wasn't a hoax. Like I say, it could be a very clever hoax. I mean, they could do all kinds of things with CGI, and it may be just something somebody come up with to do this with. I'd like to see what some video experts and photographic scientists actually have thought about this, or their investigation into some of this stuff. That's true, Ted Branson. There is an increase in all kinds of odd activity lately, which we think probably is connected with CERN to a certain extent, or something has opened up the gates, so to speak. What's going on with that? And since these experiments have been ongoing, the increase is very dramatic in many ways. Don't you think so, Gerald?
Yeah, you gotta look at the dates of all these things because CERN. Every time CERN does an experiment or turns something on or turns it off, the gates open up, and then we have incidents all over the place.
And that's the very same activity supposedly that goes on at Skinwalker Ranch, according to some portals and activity that's supposed to go on out there. They've had some very strange creatures supposedly sighted out there. Like, the wolf kind of a being that they shot at and couldn't kill. Very different things. I had a friend, Ryan Skinner, who actually wrote a book about his experience at Skinwalker Ranch, and he actually encountered a portal, and he talked about these unknown creatures and stuff that were actually seen around them. Demons love to play tricks and will take forms, confuse, and alarm people. That's true, Ted. That's another one of my thoughts on this. Is this some type of a demonic visualization? As you know, I've said in the past, the demonic is very good at taking imagery, frightening imagery, and using it for their own negative, nefarious purposes.
Yeah, I wonder. You watch that video. It's like I'd like to see what happens when they got down the hill. Where were they going? Were they there the whole time, or did they, disappear, or did they fade out, glitch out? That'd be interesting to see the whole video.
That's what I'd like to see, the beginning and the end of those videos. Where did they start, and how does it end? You never really see that. You only see like a snippet of it there, But that's like I say, I'd like to see what some experts think about that video. I've seen some very, very, very good CGI stuff. Oh, I've seen some very interesting stuff. I think one was like they showed something that looked like the elf from Harry Potter. Have you seen that when he's walking down somebody's driveway and does a little gig?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yep.
I mean, come on, that's obviously CGI. I mean, come on, it's got to be, and it was done that way to make have a little fun with people, I think. But it's not that far fetched that they can do this. I tell you what, and that's a big drawback to a lot of paranormal investigation now, Gerald. You don't know what's real or what could be fake anymore. It's so good,
And that's the other thing about this video. You would think it'd be better quality and more spectacular. It's almost like a Blair Witch video.
Yeah. These creatures were caught on video cam in Texas. I heard about that. Yeah, finally caught on their cam. They tried to debunk and couldn't replicate these things. Ended up saying the clip was real. That's a possibility that they could have been CGI too a little bit, trying to do what somebody else has done. You never know what the ramifications of it. Here's my own personal spin. I think you'll agree with this too, Gerald. If I didn't take the picture and I wasn't there when it was taken, I can't really vouch for it. I don't care what it is. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just the way that goes. You can believe it or not, or not believe it, whichever the case is. But if I'm not there when it's taken, I'm sorry. I've been shown over in my career thousands upon thousands of so-called paranormal videos. I remember one that they said they came up told me, said this is a fairy. I mean, you can see the head and the legs, which turned out to be like,
Absolutely.
a grasshopper close to something,
Absolutely.
a dragonfly or something. You can't
Absolutely.
vouch for it.
Actually, guys, to that last comment about it being in Texas on the video camera, it was in Fresno, California, where the original one was, and it was Paranormal Fact or Fake that tried to debunk it, and they couldn't. It walked through the guy's chain link fenced in front yard in Fresno, California, and yeah, Paranormal Fact and Fake couldn't duplicate it in any way, shape, or form. They tried using puppeteers style gimmicks. They tried, children to dress them up like that, and it was the gait that and the speed that they couldn't recreate. So yeah, and then the pictures that we had up just on now on here are from there's still images from the walking of it in Yosemite National Park. So that's quite a span of distance to be walking around without basically a head and arms. I don't know. I don't think it's faked either, but I also at the same time am not going to lay it 100% out there that it's real. For the simple fact that it may not be able to be hoaxed completely, but who knows? Who knows? I mean, I haven't tried it, and I don't think you guys have tried it yet. So I mean, we don't know. So it's kind of up in the air. So I'm going to leave that one about 90% positive it's real and 10% fake.
Yeah, that's the hard part when it comes to these photographs and videos. Like I say, some of us so good at what they do. I think they get their jollies out of trying to fool people too. That just makes their day sometimes. I know over the years, had a lot of people thought it was hilarious to get out and make fake Bigfoot prints out in the mud, and stuff like that. Even during my investigation of the lizard man in South Carolina, there was a guy that supposedly had lizard man prints made, and I got out and walked around with them on his boots and all that. They think that's hilarious, but what it evidently does is it screws up true investigation. You don't know what you're dealing with anymore, and that's really bad to do that. There's nothing funny about it. There's nothing comical about messing up true scientific inquiry on things.
Yeah, it's just so hard to verify any kind of video or picture these days. And I mean, it was hard enough, when computers first came out. Now everything's so advanced with AI and everything, and who knows what's real and what's not anymore.
Here's another thing. Kind of sounds like a spin, like I talked about last night on the program, yesterday on the program. Some of these newspaper guys give these names. What they come out with? Nightcrawler. I mean, it's not crawling, it's walking. That sounds like something a newspaper man came up with or something, a name for him. I know they just ran out of titles or whatever, but it's not crawling, it's walking. It's definitely getting it on down there. It's not doing any crawling.
I think they should have called it MC Hammer's pants.
The pale crawlers do crawl. They do crawl around on the ground. But the Fresno night crawlers are walking.
It's definitely all about that gate. The gate's the weird part about the whole video. Not only that it's this one one entity, you know, with no arms and almost no head or whatever you want to call it, and it's just a weird, creepy feeling about it.
That's why I said it would. If it was gonna be anything, it kind of just looks like it's mechanical, kind of a robotic or a probe of some sort. You know, who knows? It's very odd in that respect, but it just doesn't look like a living creature to me. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't look biological. And if you look real close at the way it moves and everything, I don't know. It's very strange. MC Hammer's Pants Walkers. That's what they should have named them. Yeah.
So what other
Yeah,
entities or anything that looks like that? I mean, other than normal crawlers, but they, you know, obviously, like you said, they're more on the ground on all fours crawling instead of two legs.
mm-hmm. Well, the pale crawlers have heads and arms. They're bipedal sometimes. I don't know. It's very strange. Like I say, in folklore that I know of, nothing is described like this. Nothing comes close to it in that respect. In other paranormal reports, this is a new thing. This is something that has never, as far as I know, has never been seen before. A lot of now, you know, a lot of things are. There are stories in the mountain ranges of California and everything, just like they are all over the world in the Appalachians and other mountain chains of strange things. It seems as if the mountains are magnets for these things. Um, but some of these things were supposedly seen in the suburbia. They weren't on the mountains. They weren't in the high country. They were just in regular neighborhoods. I think one film of it is in a suburban setting. Uh, so it makes you wonder what the heck is going on with that. And if you were gonna walk in any place, and like Nighthawk said earlier, some of them are seen in desolate places, sitting on boulders and all that. That's where I'd hang out at. I wouldn't want anybody to see me. I certainly wouldn't walk down through somebody's neighborhood. That's very weird.
Yep, pretty weird. It's just all about that gate in that video. It just doesn't make any sense. I think that's probably why it went viral, just because of the way they were walking on that hillside.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, it's kind of reminds me of a double jointed type of a thing, and it has a mechanical property to it too. If you watch it, I don't know, it's very weird. You know, that's kind of here's the connection between the pale crawlers and that is the movements of these things. You know, like I was when we talked about yesterday, a pale crawler can be like 20 foot away, and all of a sudden he's right there at you. You know, you don't see him actually move, and they move statically. Well, by that I say they're like point A to point B very quickly, static-like thing. These things are described as walking slowly, kind of down through these yards, but it's the way they're walking that makes me think that they're almost like they're not used to this environment or something. You know what I'm saying? Just like the pale crawler is sort of out of his environment, the way he moves. So that's the only connection I can see between those, really, except for the color.
Right.
I think Raven Creek is having a problem trying to get back in our chat here or something.
Yeah, I was trying to click on it to see if there was anything on my side I could do, and it keeps popping up on the screen.
Yeah, I'm trying to work on that now, guys. I don't know how she got blocked. I don't see it on here at all.
I tell you, this can do some strange things sometimes. I've actually had that happen on my Facebook. actually blocked people that I didn't block. I don't know why. It's very true, Ted. Who knows what could have come through CERN and what could be going on with that possibility. Like I said, there is a dramatic, and Gerald has said the same thing too. We've both said this. There's been that dramatic increase in paranormal, supernatural activity in the world, and there has to be a reason why. There's a reason for everything in this universe if you look for it, and there's got to be a reason why. And that's one of my prime suspects. How about you, Gerald?
Yeah, I mean, every time you talk about CERN, there's always this, like you guys that like to broadcast, high strangeness going on. I mean, there's all kinds of events. Every time they do an experiment, there's more sightings, solar blasts come in and everything just gets so askewed. You don't know what's real and what's not anymore in this because we have so many cryptids and new things showing up and events popping up all over the world of creepy things. And
here's another thing. We had a comment just now. I forget who it was. Said they're seeing some freaky stuff on their video security cameras. That's an ongoing thing. I've had a lot of people come to me and say, I'm seeing stuff on my video security cameras and stuff I've never seen before. And we're not talking about stuff like this. It's kind of like orbs and stuff like that. Now, I know when you deal with video, and believe me, I have for many, many, many years, I've dealt with video in my investigations. You can see some very freaky stuff, but it can be explained. Usually it's spider webs or dust or stuff like that. There's a normal explanation for a lot of these things. But there's some other things that's not quite so easily dismissed that people are catching on these videos. I've seen some in my own security cameras. So you got to wonder, what the heck is going on and why sudden increase in this? Because like I say, just in the last few months, I've had a lot of people come to me and say, I'm seeing some weird stuff on my cams, So I wonder if that's part of it. Or,
yeah, it's everybody has all these Ring cameras and security cameras on their houses, and they're picking up all these things popping up in their videos, and it's just crazy. I mean, you see all these phased, and like you said, that little guy showing up in somebody's driveway, which I agree with you that it's probably computer generated because it looks like a little imp or whatever that thing is. Kind of funny looking.
Dobby the house elf from Harry Potter is what it is. Yeah. But like I say, if you were going, here's the thing about it. You got to try to be reasonable about this. If you were something like that, a goblin or an elf or something like that, you would not be hanging around somebody's driveway, so that they can get you on their camera there. The camera is obviously set. Here's another thing. There was one where it shows actually an alien standing on somebody's deck. You remember that one, Gerald? And they said, "Oh, my Ring camera got this." But the funny thing is, the camera starts following them around. Ring cameras don't do that, okay? So you gotta wonder what some of these folks are up to. I think you've got a lot of people out there that would like a chance at getting a job in Hollywood. They got more time on their hands and they know what to do.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. A lot of these videos are if they're glitches in the system, or if their videos malfunctioning or whatever. Because you see a lot of people in these videos all of a sudden disappear. Like you're going across a busy street and all of a sudden a person disappears, like a car would have hit it, but yet it was kind of a spirit form.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember something about cameras, Gerald. And here's the interesting thing: it includes video cameras as well. Not just still cameras. They see a little bit further into the spectrum and stuff than we can with the human eye. That's why sometimes things can't catch things that we can't see, because the camera. It's like an old saying: the camera don't lie. But if there's a human mind behind it, never trust it. Okay, but it can catch some things in that spectrum that we might not possibly catch. That's the same. I've had the same experience with audio equipment. Sometimes it can capture things that we cannot hear, because it's different than a human ear, kind of thing. Uh, and it's like Nighthawk has said many times before, and I have too as well over the years. There's just some things that we're not equipped to see and hear, sense. That other things, that's like I said, where dogs and cats can see and hear things, we can't. We're very limited in many ways. Being human, unfortunately, we're very, very limited in our sensory output,
Right. That's where, as a human, we have to rely on our faith and try to raise our consciousness and to be able to perceive these things that are going in and around us. It's all you have to have discernment on what's going around you and affecting you as a human living being.
Oh yeah, and many times, Gerald, I couldn't see or hear or smell or touch anything, but I could actually feel it. I know you had that experience. You could you feel it. And women call that intuition, by the way, and that's true. That's what that is. You get that feeling, that hair on the back of the neck or the back of the hand kind of raises up for you a little bit, and you know something is going on. You need to pay attention to that because that's your body. That's your sensory output saying, hey, there's something going on here, and you're not probably perceiving it some other way. Um, when that happens, I really pay particular attention to that because, somebody is trying to tell you something,
Right. And we brought it up on the show before, and you've talked about your investigations where, a lot of times it's good to have a dog or something there with you on your investigations. Just like you said, animals have a heightened sense and can see a different spectrum. And, like dogs' ears are obviously way more attuned to stuff that we can't hear.
And here's another thing, Gerald. They don't have an opinion. They don't have a belief system. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to let that doesn't shade their pickup on these things, you see. And that's why I trust the dog or even cats or any kind of animal that way more than I would a scientific instrument because there's no opinion behind it. They're just telling you what they feel, what they're picking up. And that's where they kind of rule out human intervention. We tend to let our belief system get in the way of things. We tend to let it shade our opinion and shade what we're doing. And that's why I've told so many people over the years, time after time after time, don't go in predisposed to believe something. Let, us, like I said, I told that to DA the other night. He's the same way too. When you approach an investigation like a crime scene, okay? And like Sherlock Holmes used to say, I know he's fictional, but he was a smart guy, the guy that wrote him. He said, let that tell you the story. Don't you tell the story. Let it tell you the story, what you're trying to find out, what happened here, or what's going on here. Let that talk to you. Be open-minded as much as possible. That's what it takes,
Yep, every crime scene tells a story, that's for sure. I mean, and you're right, our minds are the worst traps, worst jails we could ever be in. You have to be open and you have to leave your influences or your thoughts and out of your deduction. I mean, if you can see whatever you make yourself want to see a lot of times.
And that's why I think it wasn't one of Sherlock Holmes' stories where he was trying to collect some cigar ash and watching and saying, "What in the world why are you wasting time on cigar ash?" He said, but this may tell us exactly what we need to know. Nothing is inconsequential when it comes to investigation. Don't rule anything out because it could hinge on one thing that you would never dream of. Like I would dearly have loved to have been standing out there in that yard when those Fresno Nighthawk crawlers came by. Okay, I would definitely like to have been standing out there to see that. I could give you a much better perspective on it if I could. But unfortunately, you don't get that chance every day.
Yeah, I wonder if they went out there and looked for any footprints or anything, because it almost looks like they didn't have feet even. It looks like they were like bottoms of stilts or pegs for legs.
Mm-hmm. And it would not be that hard. You could put a kid on stilts, teach him to walk like that with some kind of costume on. But look, it doesn't look like that to me. I mean, that would be somebody's guess, I'm sure. But that doesn't look like that, man. Like I said, the appendages of these things, it's almost like there's more joints to it than a normal leg. You know what I'm saying? It's just the
Yeah,
way it's moving.
they've compared it to be, like a bird or a stork walking. It almost has that weird backwards.
That they call that the backward knee. Like the back legs of a dog. You know, kind of a thing. Yeah, that's true. That might be what you can't really tell because there's some kind of covering lock or something over it. Like I said, I'd love to have been there to see it.
Very unusual.
I'll tell you what, I'm just that crazy kind of guy. I don't want to go out there and grab one of them things. You know what I'm saying? Come on now. We're going to find out what you really are. That'd probably be the last thing I'd ever do. Right? That's me. See, what happened to Dennis? He grabbed his night crawler and it was too late. That's what happened to me that night. I caught that glimpse of Bigfoot. I wanted to grab that son of a gun. I wanted to go after him, but I couldn't find him. Most people would be running, not me. I want to run to it. That's the way it goes. It'd probably be the last thing I'd ever do. I get a hold of a dog man or something. That's gonna be it. But I want to see something close up like that. I mean, you're going to experience something, and I've experienced a lot of things in my time. You want to do it as close up as possible. Unfortunately, that can be rather dangerous, so I don't advise people to do that.
Well, I can't find where I'm able to get Raven Creek's problem solved because I'm not finding anywhere where they're blocked.
Yeah, I think Raven Creek is back with us here. She's commenting. I can see her comments. William.
Okay.
Well, I think her comments are actually coming from my channel. I think some of them have moved over to my channel so their comments can come up.
I can see Raven Creek good. She's commenting okay there on that. I think you're okay, Raven Creek, because I can see you. You're showing up on the chat. See, I've got my phone going too, and I'm watching the chat thing on it. But on the phone, for some weird reason, it's very slow. That's true, Ted. They may find me. Might find me one day. But you're okay, Raven Creek, as far as I can tell. You're okay right now.
Yeah, it says she's not blocked.
Mm-hmm. But you must be unblocked now. I mean, you're commenting. Oh, you're blocked from Nighthawk, yeah. Okay. That's weird. It looks like it would all be on one thing, doesn't it? Since it's on StreamYard.
Well, I'll have to figure out what's going on.
Do you have your YouTube pulled up on your computer, William, so you can just touch her posts, like if you'd make her a mod or?
I already did it.
Oh,
already did it. Let me see here. Let me see here.
Well, if that moderator could unblock it, that might be one way to go at it. So the blocker,
I don't know.
the one that blocked it, the original blocker, in other words.
Well, William should have had administrative rights to do whatever.
Give me a second. I'm not even finding any comments. Let's see.
Have you ever got a chance to read my book, Beyond the Shadows, Gerald?
I have seen it online and stuff and read some of the reviews and a little synopsis of it, but I have not purchased it yet.
Well, I go into very great detail on how to do these investigations in different terrains and stuff like that, you know. That's why it's called a field manual to the paranormal. There are, you know, different techniques that you can use to ascertain the information you need to get from certain things. But the best ways, I think, are the scientific ways. You know, if you can recreate something. Okay, let's just say as an example, if there's something appearing in your house and you don't know what it is, every now and then you have to find out exactly when it does that, where it does that, and then you start looking for the why part of it. You know, why is it doing that? And then another thing is, can I recreate that? You know, can I figure out how it's doing it and all that? So one of the main scientific inquiries is to recreate something. You know, they do that at the accident sites. You know, they can recreate what happened, and that way you understand what, you know, took place a lot more. You know, a lot of I've seen this in law enforcement. A lot of speeders get tickets because of that, or get more tickets in an accident because they can figure out what speed they were going at, when they put on brakes, why they hit what they hit, and all this. You know, and there are certain law enforcement people who that's their only job they do. They go and they recreate these things, you know. And when when the airliner goes down, they will actually get all the parts that they can from that airplane and try to put it back together. That's recreating what happened, you know. So if that's the main scientific inquiry, if you can recreate something. I had an interesting case like that one time. I'll tell you this real quick. Was this lady came to me, said my husband passed away about a year ago, you know, and he had a favorite room in the house. It was the study. He would sit and he would read in this armchair next to a lamp. Now, every time I go in this room, just about, that lamp will come on without me touching it. Is that my husband trying to tell me something? You know, is he spirit, you know, where you enjoyed being? I said, well, that's a possibility, but go look at the lamp cord and see how far, you know, make sure it's plugged in correctly and everything. I said, look at the lamp really good. That's what's happening. Okay. And that's what you got to go to and look at first before you start looking for ghosts. You look at the lamp, check it out. So she come back to me about a couple of weeks later. Said, well, that plug was not all the way in, and it was the floor was vibrating when I would walk in, and it was making that lamp go off and on. You know, so I said, there you go. She thought she had a haunting on her hands, but it was just a lamp problem. You know, I've had that happen many, many, many times. I had a guy call me from the city one night, scared out of his wits. He said, "There's something in my attic. I know there's nothing up there. Could it be some kind of spirit or something?" And I said, "Well, it's been my experience that sometimes it's squirrels. Go check for squirrels in your attic." You know. And so he called me like later on and said, "You know, you were right. I found a big squirrel nest up in my attic." That's what he was, you know. It wasn't ghosts, it was squirrels. So you have to go and you got to try to recreate and understand what it is that you're dealing with before you jump to conclusion. I've often said this at lectures I do. I said, people, the only exercise some people get is jumping to conclusions.
Yep.
That's
Yeah, you
it.
always have to take the natural out of it. I mean, because you never know when stuff electrical will, start bugging out. And
Well, I've been accused of that in the past. Oh, you're too much of a critical guy. You got too much of a critical eye, but you got to have a critical eye. You'll end up letting yourself fool yourself. You look like an idiot. You got to be careful how you go about it. But yeah, you don't want to go too far into the critical thing. That's where you start trying to blow everything out. That's the bad way to be too. I would not want to be a hard, cold, cynical kind of person that doesn't believe anything. But you need that number one thing we always say in law enforcement: a preponderance of the evidence. How does that go? How much weighs for what and what? That's what you got to go by.
yeah, there's always that reasonable doubt that you have to deal with. I mean, what a common or a normal person would experience or think to believe that would be true.
Mm-hmm. Like when I was a cop, you couldn't stop. You could just walk up and start searching somebody or stop them in a vehicle just because you wanted to. You got to have reasonable suspicion. You got to have a reasonable suspicion why you want to stop that person and question them or what. You can't just walk up and do that. It's against the constitutional law. You're not supposed to do that. You've got to have reasonable suspicion. So if you're reasonably suspicious of something, like you smell marijuana or you whatever the situation is, you gotta go with that suspicion, and figure out what's going on. I remember we come up on a guy one time. It was smoking marijuana sitting in a car, and we wasn't after him because of the marijuana that much, but it allowed us to search his car because we suspected there was reasonable suspicion he was doing some other things besides just smoking a joint. You know what I'm saying? And it come to find out he had an unregistered handgun in the car, And he was saying, I didn't smoke any marijuana and all that. Of course, we could obviously smell it, So we had reasonable suspicion he was lying. So there you go. But it turned out he had a lot more problems than just smoking a joint.
Yep.
But you gotta go with what your suspicions are, but you gotta have a reason for that. Just like I say, everything in this universe has got a reason behind it. You just gotta look for it, Things don't just I don't believe, being a supernaturalist, that things just randomly happen for no reason. There's always some action that sets it in motion,
Yeah, that's where you always lead back to CERN, wondering if they've opened up a portal or messed with our timelines or mixed them up, and who knows what they've done there.
There's a reason why. Yeah. And as investigators, that's our job. I've had people ask before, are you going to look into that? I say, yeah, that's what investigation is for. You got to look into it. That's what it's all about. But there's certain ways, the correct ways to go about that to find out what you want to find out, You make any progress there?
I can't find where she's blocked.
Well, she was commenting pretty good there for a while. She wasn't blocked on our end. Gerald and I could see her.
Well, I see her
everybody
on
else
YouTube,
having
and then I see her on StreamYard.
Yeah, I mean, I see her on StreamYard, and I saw her on the YouTube for High Strangeness too. But I don't know. I'll have to work on it, figure out what was done. I think it was more than just block. Oh, thank you, Tim. Get some sleep, brother.
Raven, if you want to comment again, maybe we could see if we can see you comment again and give it a shot.
Anyways, go ahead and continue with what you guys are talking about, and I'll catch up.
We were just talking a little bit about some investigative techniques and stuff. But that's what we said. I would definitely, I think Gerald too, would love to have been there when those things walk by. Really get a good look at them.
Yeah. Yep. I'm just kind of surprised how somebody didn't see them. Almost like, because they were right out in the open, and they were caught on.
If there was something real,
too, so
it fits the bill of something interdimensional looking being to me.
Yeah, I mean, there have been, like I said, sightings of those things, basically looking like a gray alien without arms, sitting on like rocks in the middle of rivers and stuff in national parks. So that's why I was thinking maybe, I was trying to think of the correlation between granite boulders and these things, and maybe these things are a Fey type of a cryptid, So, but, I mean, it's trying to make that connection is pretty far stretched.
Well, when you look at them, they definitely don't belong here. Not in this natural order.
I just wish there was more information about these things, and these things were seen in more locations. Just because from what I gathered, there's only been a couple sightings of them. So, which means they're either very, very.
Well, now there's one thing similar to this, William. I don't know if you're familiar with this. I'm gonna interrupt you while I'm thinking about it. You heard of the stick men, right? They've actually seen these things. They're stick men. They look like sticks put together, and some of them can be huge on the side of buildings. There's been actually one I think was filmed crawling up a building, and this thing had to be like 3 or 4 stories in length. What do you think about that? Do you think that's a connection with that?
I mean, I don't know if the so-called stick men are. I mean, they've been called they've been called giant spiders too. So I mean, like a walking stick, basically. I don't know. I don't know if there's any connection between them and these things. It seems like
you got the weird siren head. You remember that one?
Oh yeah,
siren head.
Yeah, siren head. Yeah, they tend to be more of a kind of a whimsical type of a make believe. Yeah, make believe type of a thing that the younger generation is trying to. And like with anything, you can manifest it enough to. Oh, thank you. Like anything, you can manifest anything really if you think about it enough. So
somebody one day looked at a siren on the tower and said, "What if that thing was alive and started walking?" That would be scary to me. Uh, uh, people have some very good imaginations out there, definitely.
Oh yeah. Let's see what's going on here. Anybody else having any problem? I don't seem to.
There's Raven. There's Raven Creek. There.
Yeah, but that's from my YouTube. She's posting on that to get so it comes through.
See, on my end, I can't tell whose YouTube channel it is. It just says YouTube.
Well, I have mine pulled up on my phone, so I know she's posting on my site instead of yours. So I don't know what's going on with that.
No.
I can see her good. I don't know either. That's really weird. I think it's almost like somebody's kind of screwing around with some of this stuff on us. I think we're getting some really strange interference here lately from different sectors.
Well,
That's true.
YouTube is owned by Google.
That's true about Newton's laws. Every action results in an equal and opposite reaction.
All right.
There's always a reason why.
One thing I wanted to kind of go over today was the connection between the night crawlers and the tall grays. Not the short gray, the tall gray. Because they kind of look like a combination. They kind of look like a combination between MC Hammer's pants mating with a tall gray. So, I mean, that's about the only way I could describe it.
Now that's weird. That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, very. It's such a rare thing to find and to see that that's why I'm not 100% sold that it's not faked. I have to visually see it myself, almost really, in order to you know what I mean, or know that the videotape wasn't actually messed with in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
So,
you'd have to be there. Yeah.
But I mean, who knows? Look at this. I just got Tracy just brought me some potato soup.
Oh.
So, all right, let me see what the comments said. Cross feeding.
Cross feeding, maybe. Oh, you mean cross breeding?
Yeah, I think they meant breeding.
Yeah. I don't know. To me,
I think David's hungry.
Like if these things exist, I believe there's some type of alien probe of some sort. Myself. I'm live chatting on Midwest, but I'm blocked from live chat on Nighthawk. Oh, okay. It may straighten itself out once you get offline and come back online again, Will. If when you go offline today, it may straighten back out. I've seen weird things.
Well, you think it would have done it? Yeah, you think it would have done it already with Raven Creek Charms logging in and out of the YouTube channel. Because I'm still showing that they're subscribed and I'm still showing that they're not blocked on my end. So, and that's through YouTube Studio. Now, I'll continue to work on it. You guys go ahead and talk, and I'll continue to work on it.
But anyway, we can still see you on our side, Raven Creek. Okay. So keep keep talking if you want to. We'll see you live chat on Midwest, and the girl can see you too. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, I don't know. I go down with the alien probe thing on them myself. I don't know. That's kind of weird.
I'm leaning towards it's just an anomaly what has came in because it's only been seen a few times here and there. So I'm just thinking either CERN opened up a portal and they were able to slip through, then they went back out. I don't know.
And if you're interdimensional from some other dimension, you could look like anything. I mean, you're not gonna look human. You could look like anything else. Could be some very bizarre looking creature. I would expect that too. By the way, if you're from some other weird dimension, that's what Edna there about the little people. Edna, I have had a lot of cases. A good friend of mine, actually, I write about that in my book, The Road Unseen. Actually had a run-in as a child with a little person, a little people. We're not talking about little human people. We're talking about the Fae, actually. There really are a lot of reports on these things, and you've got different types of little people. Of course, you've got the gnomes, you've got the pudwudgies, you've got all these different types. You've got goblins. I've seen a very good video of what's supposedly a goblin the other day, but I know that's probably CGI too. It looks like something from a movie, anyway, a clip from a movie. But look at the goblins and how they're depicted in the Lord of the Rings, the interesting thing about Lord of the Rings, J.R. Tolkien actually derived the Uruk-hai from the goblins, a mixture of goblins and something else. The Uruk-hai were a actually made race of beings for purposes made by them. I think it was made by Saruman the White and all that, but I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, it's very interesting that J.R. Tolkien went back into folklore and got all this stuff like goblins and all that out. But that's been talked about for many, many years. These little beings. Even the Native Americans have many stories of these. And one of my favorites are the moon-eyed people. The reason, by the way, they're called the moon-eyed is that they didn't have eyes like the moon. They actually only came out at night. In other words, they could see good at night. That's why they call them moon-eyed. They were like nocturnal things. And that's a very interesting aspect of that too. So the little people is a whole category by itself. There's a bunch of them. That includes leprechauns too. But I keep telling people, I know Gerald knows he's heard me say this before. They're not Tinkerbell, okay? That's Walt Disney. Forget that Tinkerbell stuff, okay? That's not the real Fae. That's not fairies. That's not the real fairies. They don't look like Tinkerbell. They don't have butterfly wings, flying around. That's not the fairies. That would be more of an elemental type spirit, which would be more like a nymph or something, a nature elemental. But the fairies were really always described as normal sized people, or maybe slightly smaller because people years ago were shorter than we are now. As time goes on, we get taller and everything. Anyway, they're described as normal sized people, although they live underground. Okay, because that's where you go when you want to hide, I reckon. But you go back to the Irish legends and do some research on the Irish legends. It's fascinating stuff, man. About with the Toothed Lion and all these other things that go in with it, the different clans that had interaction with this. I told somebody the other day about the corgis. Corgi dogs are called fairy dogs. They are the dogs, supposedly the dogs of the fairies. That's just why Queen Elizabeth had so many corgis. She loved corgis because that's a big thing in Scotland, by the way. That's where they were fairy dogs. So you got a lot of interaction with the Fae on this stuff, you know. The Fae is a fascinating subject. I could talk hours and hours on that. I've done a lot of research on it. And it's not found just in Ireland and Scotland. You can find it not only in Wales, but Iceland. You know, they've diverted certain roads in Iceland because they thought that elves lived there, and it would actually put highways around these areas, and disturb the elves. So there you go. You got some very interesting belief systems in this.
Yeah, there's so many different types. I mean, you get into the phase and the elementals, and there's so many different subcategories, whether you want it, like you said, you got the little people, you got the Native American, you got the leprechauns. I mean, there's just so many of them that are almost in the same category, but they're subcategories at the same time because they all have different aspects and different folklores. And
yeah, and all the elves don't live in a tree making cookies either. Or helping Santa out. But anyway, that's the folklore. That's the fascinating thing about folklore. And I tell people, I'm a folklorist from way back. As a matter of fact, I belong to the American Folklore Society. And you find a lot of interesting clues and stuff in folklore. It's got so much to tell us if we only pay attention to it. And I've talked to a lot of people say, "Oh, I research this and I research that." I said, "Well, you got into the folklore aspects of it." And they said, "Well, what are you talking about, folklore?" I said, "Boy, you're missing a whole big slice here, you know." You need to get into that and take it from that perspective. I know folklore is a lot of legend and stories, but, like we've always said, Gerald, there's a grain of truth there. And people were trying to tell us something of how things related to them. And that's always important to listen to, you know?
Yep, you got to listen to what the native people or the people in the region, what they've said, about why these stories happen or why everybody's still telling these stories. Because like you said, there's always just a little bit of truth in every made up story or every legend or folklore.
Well, that's why, when I first started out in the paranormal many years ago, that's the one thing that struck me. All over the world, you had the different cultures with the same belief systems. You had the belief in giants and witches and shapeshifters and vampires and ghosts and all this stuff. And everybody had the same. I say, well, the one thought that occurred to me is somebody somewhere must have encountered something like this on a pretty routine scale. You know what I'm saying? You have giants in every culture. You had them in the Bible. You got them, in Gilgamesh. They talk about Anunnaki being giants. I mean, you encounter this wherever you go. Giants, dragons, vampires. I mean, what's going on with this? And like we've mentioned this before when it comes to shapeshifters, not just the werewolf. That's not wolf. That's wolf with an L in it. The werewolf is not just the werewolf. It's the were-tiger. It can be the were-apes in Africa. It can be were-panda, for all I know. There may be in China. I mean, come on. You get the round. But you're talking about, that's why you don't just say one certain thing. You call it a shapeshifter. But that's an attribute that these things share. Even the little people have the ability to shapeshift. You know that, don't you, Gerald?
Yep. I mean, once you get into the supernatural or the elemental aspect of all these things, I mean, there's no telling what they can be. I mean, like you said, every culture experiences these things, and they might not all be called the same names. Like the Native Americans call it one thing, and then the Spaniards called it something else when they came here. And there's just references all over. You got to sort it out and try to put the story together.
And it's interesting to think about Native Americans. There were so many different tribes, and yet they all talked about the same thing. They just had different names for it because they had different languages, but they had different names for it. Was the same thing. Uh, I think the Wendigo has like 4 or 5 different names in different tribes. That's just the way that goes. But that was that very same thing happened in Europe. Like the Stringle is the name for the vampire. I think in Hungarian or something. You run into it. Look at the Greek vampire. It's the Valvallica. That's the Greek vampire. Okay, you would think as far away as Greece is from Hungary or Romania, but you still got vampires. So eventually, somewhere, somebody must have encountered some type of a thing like this for it to be so prevalent. So that's the one thing that really strikes you as odd when you get into paranormal research, why these things keep occurring. There's a reason why, like I said earlier, for everything.
Yeah, like you said, there's so many reports of all these things throughout different cultures that, there has to be an original story or original sighting that came from this. So this makes you wonder, how many of these things have transpired still throughout time. That's what you got to really look at. It's like, okay, something happened in the medieval times, whether it's a vampire or a zombie or whatever. Is it still happening today? When did it stop? When did it start? You got to look at all that evidence.
And that's another thing about science that really bugs me, though, these mainstream science. The very thing about giants, they discounted the Bible long ago as a book of fairy stories, fairy tales. That's nothing. They don't even want to use it for archaeology or anything. They still frown upon that. There's still a prejudice in science against books like the Bible and stuff like that, because this don't fit their narrative. And then giants definitely don't fit their narrative. And that's why a lot of people say these gigantic skulls and stuff that were found were hidden or purposefully lost by the Smithsonian and certain other scientific things because it didn't fit their criteria for what they said existed. But we know from the beginning of time that mankind has always recognized the existence of giants and little people too, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we talk about giants, and then you read in the Bible about Nephilim. So they've been around for a long time, and they all have that spiritual and aspect to them, and it's still happening today. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we had military, reports of finding giants in caves.
And that's an interesting connection. Most wherever you have stories, I don't care where it's at, of giants, they're connected to what? Caves. Just like the little people are. And like the leprechauns and the elves and all this, all of it keeps pointing like big red arrows to the underground.
Yep.
That's the first thing I always think pops in my mind as a paranormal investigator when something like that is sighted. Was there a cave system nearby? Because it seems to be like that's a prevalent thing with this stuff,
Yeah, cave dwellers, that's this. You don't know, with all the vast systems and caverns everywhere. Especially here in North America, we just have so many, and they go so deep, and they haven't all been explored yet. So who knows what's down inside of them?
And they're talking about these stuff on camera and stuff. You've heard of corpse lights or the fairy lights. They have different names, will-o'-the-wisp and all that. These lights that are supposedly seen in the forest and swamplands and all that. Some of it may be naturally occurring, like St. Elmo's fire, or it could be like foxfire, and stuff like that. That's understandable. Swamp gas, as the government loves to call it. But that's part. But you can't rule out some of these things that actually purposefully lead people into the woods and stuff. I mean, there's an intelligence behind it. When you talk about orbs and stuff like that, that's the first thing I ask. Did it act intelligently? You know, did it move independently? It didn't just stream by or blow by on the wind, or was it a bug? Was it intelligently moving? You know, that tells you a big part of what you're looking at. That's the thing. Like with these night crawlers, you know, they seem to be they seem to have an intelligence behind them. They're not just walking around. You know what I'm saying? There seems to be some kind of an intelligence there. I would like to see one walk around a tree, and I'll walk into it. I like to see how they encounter stuff. You know, so you don't. There's a whole lot you don't see in this film. In these pictures, there's a whole lot you don't see, and that's the one thing you always look for: what you don't see. You know what I mean? That's something that's not showing up. It tells a story too. You know.
Yeah, you always got to look at the whole picture. I mean, you got to try to get as many pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, that's what William Ives said in other episodes when we were talking about government and secret stuff like that. It's what you pay attention to, what you look for is what they're not talking about, what they're not saying, or what they're not doing. You know, you got to ask a reason why, what's going on with that too. So it's not always the stuff in front of you in your face. You know, that's like I was telling somebody the other day. You got all these reports of Goat Man, but what's obviously staring you in the face is the god Pan. Pan was a goat man, by the way. Okay, are they seeing that, or is that something they know about? You know, you got to pull that into the equation too. And you know, all through history, you've had the centaurs, the half man, half horse thing. You know, the centaurs. You have these hybrid animal thing, human animal thing going on, like the Minotaur, and all these different things. You got to take that into account too. That's part of folklore, by the way. You know.
Yeah, there's all kinds of mythological creatures, you know, and you got to wonder, you know, back of your head, is there actually such a thing that actually did exist, or is that the only way they could describe them back in the time?
Well, yeah, you got to remember, here's the thing about it, and I've often said this, Gerald, when you go back and look at these stories, you got to try to, as much as possible, I do this as a writer, you try to, as much as possible, look through the eyes of those people from their perspective, not yours. You know what I'm saying? From their perspective. And if they're like 200 years ago, you gotta take that into account, because they didn't know about cell phones, they didn't know about television, they had no way to describe something the way that you and I would, you know. So we have to look through their eyes from their perspective. Or the old saying is, we got to walk in their shoes, you know, walk a mile in their shoes and understand why they were saying what they. That's when it comes to when it comes to the Bible. You got to remember, if you talk about a fiery chariot, that would be the only way you could describe a spacecraft, because you didn't know anything about spacecraft. You know what I'm saying? You didn't know anything about that, but you did know what a chariot looked like. You know what I mean? So you got to remember how they were seeing it, you know, and it's very important that you not lose that key.
Yeah, when you get into the supernatural, you know, back in the biblical times, or even let's just say primitive people, you know, what they would believe that it would be a god or some kind of supernatural creature that would come, you know, to help them or kill them, you know, whichever aspect, if it's good or evil.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, the ancient peoples had a much more connection to the supernatural, the spiritual aspects than we do. Unfortunately, modern mankind is on the side of the spiritual aspects of this universe, and that's a bad thing, you know. That's cutting part of yourself off. That's just like, you got two good arms, why would you cut one arm off? You know, there you go. Be stuck with one arm for the rest of your life. No, you don't want to do that. You don't want to cut part of yourself off in your existence. That is part of your existence. You know, the spiritual aspect of it.
Found the problem.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, you can read it down below. Yep, it's Google. Anytime somebody is blocked, Google and YouTube will actually unsubscribe them from the channel so they cannot post.
So you got to resubscribe. Yep. Well, that's simple to do. Just hit that button. Subscribe.
Y'all remember seeing that cave crawling video about that cave creature that was in Iceland?
I think I remember
the big ice
that
cave where the guy video recorded it, and that's a lot like that looked like a lot like we consider, because I've seen that. And in the chat there has been talking about little people with a couple people there, and that actually looked like a golem, like basically what was in Lord of the Rings, but it also at the same time struck me as a little person. So
you remember that the miners, the cavers, had their own belief system in the little people. They were called the Tommy knockers, you know. Yeah, Pan was the goat man. He was the symbol of nature, the wildness of nature. He was the party guy too. He liked to drink and eat grapes a lot.
All right, so I don't know what happened with that. If she can't get back on, I'm completely stuck by this.
If you know what moderator blocked you, if you could get that moderator to try to unblock it from their end, maybe that might be the answer to that.
Well, Karen says it could take up to 24 hours.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's been a weird weekend, so
yeah, it has.
It's definitely been a weird weekend. Anyways, well, guys, I appreciate you carrying the show, but there's some issues I got to straighten out with YouTube and Google apparently, because they should not be unsubscribing people that have subscribed to the channel, and you know, we go up to 190 subscribed, and then we go back down to 160. You know, because they're unsubscribing them.
Right.
So, and at one time we were over 500. So,
first same thing happened on Facebook. I had like one time I had like 2,000 followers, and boom, turn around, come in like one day and I had like 300. And then and like 2 days later, I got them all back. Weird stuff. I don't know. I tell you what, when it comes to technology, it comes to technology, you can always expect the unexpected.
Yeah. I'd hoped today's show would have gone a little smoother, but apparently there are some issues that's got to be worked out. So, if you can, just hang in there, everybody. Back and check to see if you can resubscribe.
Here's the issue. You're in subscribers only mode right now.
No, I'm not.
That's what it says on my thing. Read it. Subscribers only mode. That's what it says on. Well, that's what it's coming across on my phone.
No.
So that's right on my phone.
No. Let me check something real quick. All right. Might get a little bit of feedback, so I'm going to cut the mic out.
All right. And Edna's talking about your Tommy knockers there, Dennis, about she had some miners in their family.
Oh yeah, that's a very prevalent legend, the Tommy knockers. I think Stephen King wrote a book on that too. I think.
Yep.
And you know, every profession, like the loggers and all that, they all had their own different legends and folklore. And it's a very interesting aspect. Um, every profession seemed like had their little share of it. Especially, I think the professions that call for you to go into certain mysterious places like mines, you know, uh, to work. Definitely, you were facing death every day, really, in many aspects. And even the loggers were facing death. If you have a tree fall on you or whatever, you know, um, and you had Paul Bunyan and all their legends with the loggers. Things were bigger than life for them. I think it was a way to ease their burdens a lot too. To you know, gives them, if you're down there clacking away with a pickaxe in a mine, you won't think of something other than dying, you know. Reason why you're there. So these things were, I think, a way to relieve tensions, uh, to get your mind on good things and stuff. It's the
Well,
human equation.
you hear of stories though of miners finding, unknown creatures or, demonic stuff down there. Then you also hear of them being scared out of mines, so when they have natural disasters or whatever, the mine caves in, that
Mm-hmm.
entity or whatever has actually kept them out of the mine to keep them safe. So it kind of goes both ways. You don't know, is it myth? Is it legend? Did it really happen? Did they tie this story into that natural disaster, or was there really something there that kept them from getting hurt?
And you know, that's the interesting aspect of mining, especially. It was a very mysterious profession because you never knew what the next stroke of your pick might uncover. You know, you never knew what when you were going to run into the unknown aspects of not only just creatures but objects that were found. You know, there's many stories of miners actually breaking through into underground cities and stuff. Weird stuff like that, you know. You have to wonder there again where folklore ends and reality begins, where the real truth of the matter is. Did that happen to somebody at one time or another? Yeah, there's some interesting stories of the miners. But like I said, they face constant death and that coal dust, breathing that in all the time, especially the coal miners. And uh, mining has been going on for thousands of years. It's a profession, and it had a lot of death and hardship accompanying it. And whenever you have that, you're going to definitely have folklore that accompanies it. Just like with the loggers, farmers, all the farmers had their different type of folklore and beliefs. You know, if it was going to rain because of something, or if you kill a snake and hang it on a fence, it'll rain the next day. All kind of stuff like that. It's fascinating what human beings come up with on a scale like this.
Right. Reminds me of all the stories from the gold miners. You have all the myths and legends about the gold veins and the rich mines, and they've hidden them, and you can't have access to them. Then you got the ghost towns and all kinds of high weirdness in that.
And haunted mines were a big thing. There was one, I know there was one in particular, and this was probably something natural, but they said that this mine had been dead. A mine dies like a person does and dies out. That's what they used to call it. And they would say, listen, you can still hear the dead miners down below with their pickaxes, their ghosts are still there working, that's interesting, which is probably some natural sound if you heard anything. But anyway, that's the interesting aspect of the legends and stories about mining, because like I say, it was a very mysterious profession. You never knew what was going to happen. And you could have a cave in and not just one or two, but 30 or 40 people get killed or die. You had a lot of trauma going on with these things. And just on top of that, of the families above ground that lost their family members, very interesting.
What do you think, William?
I think I've got a headache. That's what I think. Let's see here.
Maybe we need to call in the experts. Those experts you keep hearing about. Where are they at? Call in the experts.
Yeah.
And every round.
Yeah. The whole thing is, I think it's all related to Google and YouTube trying to basically find ways around taking care of censorship and all that, and to keep these podcasters down below a amount of subscribers. But there is no limitations put on the chat. Yeah, there's limitations put on the. You don't have to be subscribed to the channel to actually talk on the chat. Melissa, I actually checked, and you were unsubscribed from the channel. So just so you know. And that's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. Taking it upon themselves to do stuff like this, and it's starting to really tick me off. So
it keeps on liking you, huh? That's a possibility. It could be something with both podcasts being combined or something. Seems like I've noticed this in the past. Whenever you split something in different ways like that, it seems to cause problems for them or something. I don't know. It's real technical stuff, Sometimes it seems like you're stretching their technology
that's
too
all
far.
part of AI. No, that's all part of AI. That's all part of AI, and it's. I'm telling you guys, it's going to be our downfall. It's going to be the downfall of humanity is AI. I don't think you're going to have to worry about the times of the end of times coming from a. They might be having a political figure
alien
involved
invasion
in causing the chaos, but and you certainly don't have to worry about an alien invasion. That's
what somebody said online the other day, William. Said we may not have to worry about an alien invasion. We're going to do ourselves in first.
Yeah, exactly. There's something going on in this world today that is caused by the people that are in control. And, I'm not going to name names, and I'm not going to name governments and all that.
But you know who you are.
But, yeah, they know who they are, and they know who they have to control things. They know that they own, they have people hidden in every media and social media outlet in the world, and it is what it is. They just don't want people like us commoners to succeed. So
it's like a preacher I knowed once, William. He said, "Don't ever forget that the devil goes to church every Sunday." And somebody said, "What are you talking about? The devil goes to church every Sunday?" Well, he's always got somebody there. He's always got an agent in there. And these people follow those same rules, okay? They've always got somebody inside watching stuff.
Exactly. And that's why I keep asking, check to make sure you're subscribed. Check to make sure that bell notification is set up to where you get the announcements regularly, all the announcements. And I ask people to like it and Share it as much
I
as
had this
possible.
happen the other day. Listen to this. I subscribed to my own podcast, the Demonology Today podcast, and I went back and looked at the other day, and I had to resubscribe again. And that's the second
Yeah.
time that's happened. That's the second time that's
Yeah.
happened. Okay, what's going on with that?
Well, I'd like to say that if we got everybody together and just did a class action lawsuit against Google, I wonder just what kind of outcome we would have. So, just a thought. If anybody's a lawyer out there,
I don't know. They don't. They got teams of lawyers to back them up. They know how to do it.
yeah, they definitely have. Well, they may have teams of lawyers, but when it comes down to infringing upon people's inalienable rights, that's tyranny.
We should have the Constitution on our side, and but that doesn't seem to count for much anymore.
So, but anyways, we are going into the second hour here, and I'm a firm believer that we have a lot to be worried about in this world. Okay, we do, but I don't think the threat of aliens is going to be one of them. If anything, I think that the aliens are smart enough to realize that we will destroy ourselves before we get invaded by them. So,
well,
that's a given.
That's what I've said in the past about evil being inherently self-destructive. Well, that's our connection with evil. We're the same way. Humanity is self-destructive in its aspects, unfortunately.
Yeah. Mankind is almost, I don't even know how to really say it. Mankind has made their own sinking boat, and now we're stuck with either trying to fix it or just let it sink. And I think the majority of people would rather just kind of live their lives and put blinders on and not realize what's on around them, then we're definitely going to sink. So.
Yeah.
Hey, Gerald, what time is your show?
Tonight it's going to be at 6 p.m. Central, and we're having Marty, the Nana boss, on there and getting into all of her investigations and what she's got going on.
Marty, okay. That'll be a good show. Dennis, what time is your show again tonight?
It's at 9:00 p.m. It'll be on YouTube, Demonology Today, and tonight I'm going to open a real can of worms, the cryptid demonic connection.
Okay. All right, so we're going to be talking red eyeballs.
The Nephilim.
Yeah, some of that. It's going to get it's going to get real deep. Yes, sir.
Uh-oh. All right, so everybody, make sure you got your hip waders on, and be ready for two wonderful shows this afternoon or early evening and late evening. And I'm going to try to figure out what I can do with Google and YouTube, because they're getting to become more pain in the butt than anything right now. And I know Google's listening. So anyways, is there anything else we need to discuss? I would say if we did, we'd probably be banned from YouTube. So I'm really fuming right now. So I'm gonna leave it at that. On the bottom of the screen, there's a ticker there going across. If you all can, help support the podcast channel and all the podcasters, you can get Dennis's books on Amazon, and you can, subscribe to Midwest Grandmaster G's channel and support him. Every time I call you Grandmaster G, you always smile.
I might have to put that on screen for my moniker.
Grandmaster G. Oh, that's kind of a Masonic thing right now. Because you see anybody that has sat through anybody that's a Mason.
By the way, did I ever mention that Aleister Crowley was a 33-degree Mason?
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
But it's the Masonic lodge that he was associated with wasn't.
It was Freemasons, actually.
Yeah, well, the Masonic lodge that he was associated with was not as.
Well, what it was,
but
he actually bribed his way into that. But that's another story for another time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into the whole Masonic thing, because there are, conspiracy theories about them wanting to take over the world and all that. But to be honest with you, nobody wants to mop up after certain presidents.
Supposedly, most of the Masons came out of the Knights Templar, but we'll tell that's something for another show sometime. It's a very interesting story. I'm a Knights Templar, by the way. Actually, the Masons came from the original Knights Templars, supposedly. We'll talk about that some other time, though. It's fascinating stuff.
Here's somebody had a question. What about Elon Musk and the U.S. attempting to go to the moon? Well, Christopher, it's been my impressions that we've had a moon program for a very long time, and that we are probably already on the moon. I'm not 100% guaranteed on that, but I do know several people that have assumed that and stated that they were. Well, in fact, let me pull it up here. Let me pull this up here.
Let me say this, okay? I've been an astronomer for a long time, amateur astronomer for since I was like 12 years old, and I have seen some freaky lights on the moon when there shouldn't be any lights there. That's all I can tell you.
Yep, you can go ahead and bring in a secret space program while you're at it too, and we can just go down all kinds of avenues.
Oh yeah,
I'm telling you, the picture I wanted to put up is gone. I don't know why this is happening. It should not be happening. That is too weird, because it was on there this morning when I logged on. Wonder if somebody's got the capability. Well, I know a certain somebody that's got capability of hacking stuff, because here's a picture of them.
They look pretty familiar.
the Men in Black. Yeah. Too familiar.
Otherwise known as Black Demons. The Black Demons is what I like to call them.
Yeah. Yeah, they're demonic, I think, without a doubt.
Let's see. And remember, this isn't all of them that I found, but that'll give you a hint of what's going on in our world and all the stuff that's hidden from us. So right there. It's amazing the amount of crap that they're hiding from us. It really is. So,
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer in this.
That is definitely
I'm a
demonic.
firm believer. Yep. Yeah, that's the way you can say that there's not a connection to everything. I mean, there's too much happening too fast, especially now lately. In the last 40 years, it has definitely sped up quite a bit. So, but that being said, that's a whole nother can of worms we'll get into at another. Dennis is going to be with Grizzly Chris tonight. They are on YouTube and Facebook. So I've seen them on both. So
There'll be a link
and you
on
can
my
catch
Facebook.
all three.
I have a link on my Facebook. Yeah.
Catch all three. Yep. Yeah, I thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. The thumbs up. And I agree wholeheartedly with Raven Creek Charms. Something is definitely missing with the show today.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, this whole weekend has been really, really, really odd.
Weird.
You know, after Friday night, and government operations are going to their special access programs are going to pay people to infiltrate and to kind of like just intimidate or try to intimidate or spoof certain subjects.
I think we definitely.
And that's
Friday
why
night.
I wholeheartedly believe Friday night was definitely something in that created by these folks. Now
I
these
believe
folks,
it was some agent work going on there Friday night. Definitely.
yes, definitely, and I think that there are people that are placed, like I said earlier in the earlier part of the podcast, there are people that are placed in certain media and social outlets to do stuff like that, to try to discredit.
It's harassment. Yeah. Harassment is what it is. Harassment. Yeah.
Yeah. They try to discredit you and stuff and make fun of the subject matter you're trying to be serious about. Kind of like climate change. Climate change to me is some of it's real, but a lot of it isn't. And and I'll just post this to everybody to show that what I mean by that.
Certain elements in this world are very good at weaponizing stuff, whatever it may be.
You take a look at this, and you can actually see they're starting to move it again. Take a look at this picture, you'll see
by all rights, that should be underwater right now.
Yep.
If you believe what certain people say.
1620, 1920, 2023. So if that was, at least the water would be covering it to where you could still see the rock if the oceans were rising. Or the land mass was sinking. So either or would increase that water level. I'm sorry, but I don't see it. And that rock has not been tampered with in any way, shape, or form because you can't. There's no way possible without being seen tampering with it. So, but I thought that was very, very interesting, and that's just part of the BS that we're spoon fed every single day of our lives. So, you know, kind of like the theory that there's no such thing as monsters, there's no such thing as unidentified flying objects. You know, there's no such thing as you know, Bigfoot, Mothman, you know, any type of supernatural or cryptid entity. You know, aliens don't visit you at night when you sleep. You know, people don't get abducted. You know, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. The bull crap that they're trying to cover up, and that's exactly what it is. They're just trying to cover it up and make their people come out smelling like roses. You know.
Smoke,
So, and the rest of us,
and mirrors, smoke and mirrors.
Yep, yep, and the rest of us look like we're crazy. So, you know, I got, you know, hey, I've got family members that say I'm crazy. So, you know what? I'm proud to wear that badge. I'm a weirdo warrior. So, anyways, you know, like, heart, share this out. Subscribe to the channels, please, all of them. If you can, follow us and all that. Friend on space on Facebook, and you know, don't forget, if we don't go with YouTube, if something happens where YouTube says, "Oh, we're going to take you off and ban you again," there's always Facebook, there's always Twitch, there's always Twitter, you know, there's always Instagram. You know, I mean, these are other locations where you can find us. Now we're on, like I said, we're on Truth Social, we're on Rumble. But for some reason, we're only allowed to like limit our broadcast for a few minutes. Basically, we can do short videos. I don't know why. I guess it's because the viewership, you know, isn't high enough. So, but short of that, you'll find us. Just put us in the thing. I'm going to be bringing the radio aspect of Nighthawk High Strangeness back. And I'm going to put my radio voice or my radio face back into the radio. So you all won't be having to look at me every time I come on. So, but anyways, like, heart, share it out. And, you know, Weirdo Warriors in the chat, please, please, please stay weird, stay strong, and question everything. Okay. We'll see you all Friday night. Okay, maybe Wednesday night. I might go live. You know what? I might do a live Wednesday night. But I might want to do something about midnight or so Wednesday night. Just to kind of mix it up a little bit. So you know, because a lot of people work late and they have nothing, you know, and a lot of people are driving home from work and stuff around that time. So, you know, maybe a good midnight show on a Wednesday night might do some good every now and then. At least maybe once a month, you know.
Midnight matinee.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it burning the midnight oil. So,
Yeah, we've been doing Wednesday nights at midnight when I get home from work on Night Owl.
oh, okay. Well, then there you go. You know, you gotta. Are you still doing it?
Yeah, we did it last week, and we're going to do it this coming week.
Okay. All right. So, are you doing it every week, or are you not? Are you?
We haven't set a schedule yet, but we're planning on doing it every week. But it's just kind of touch and go right now because, you know, we're just kind of, it's like a open chat thing where we're not really having guests necessarily, but we're just chatting with everybody that shows up.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, then maybe I'll take. You know what? Maybe I'll do a Tuesday night at midnight. So, because there's nothing really happening on Tuesdays anymore, especially TV wise and internet wise. So yeah, we'll do a Tuesday night show. So, Taco Tuesday. Yeah. So look for it. I'll put something in the works, and if I go live this Tuesday at midnight, we'll see what happens. Okay. Everybody have a great day, and stay weirdo, warriors.